farm. Quality post. This story happened 2 years ago on my now gone grandfather's farm. Before I start talking about the story, I'm going to give a description of the farm. I spelled something wrong. We have a big wooden house and 2 sheds at the back of the building. And at least half a football field-sized grass field that ends with the woods. And on the left side of the building, there are some deep woods that go for some bit. Front of the building is different crops, had corn, carrots, some apple trees, and my grandfather's tomato garden, and some animals to rabbits, chicken, and 2 livestock guardians. Dogs. On the right side, a small building to hold our tractor and some other vehicles that can fit in there. When I first was on the farm, it didn't feel right. Felt like I was being watched, but that feeling faded away after some time. Did what I could to help on the farm, and on morning, found out that one of the dogs was bloody and had a broken paw. I told my grandfather, and he went to the vet with the dog. After some time, I checked in on the rabbits. The area where the rabbits were looked like a rabbit's leg, their ear on the fence. Called my grandfather right after that, said what I see. He was angry. My grandfather, he lost 3 rabbits to some unknown animal. Me and my grandfather were thinking about it on what could it be? A black bear? A brown bear? A wolf? We didn't know. My grandfather had the idea to buddies of his who had some trail cameras and asked to borrow them for a bit. Grandfather set up 2 on the animal area, 1 on the garden and 1 from the house pointing towards the apple trees and cornfield, and 2 at the back of the building. 4 days went by. Got tied dog back, had a cast on, and was held inside for some while. I believe it was in the middle of the summer. My friends Carl, Jake, Mike, Jacob called me and said, could we come over and do a small camping trip in the woods near your grandpa's farm? I asked my grandpa and said, okay. So the next day, me and my friends got ready to go camping, but my grandfather stopped us and dragged me inside for a minute to hand me one of his shotguns, the double barrel, and said, be careful, look out for bears, while handing me like 9 shotgun shells. After that, I put the double barrel on my back and headed over to the wood. With my friend on the camping trip, we were not so deep in the woods I could barely see the building and the 2 sheds. When we picked the spot we wanted, we unpacked on my 4 friends. Mike started to set up one of those giant tents where you could stand inside and not touch the top. After that, we created a fire pit, and then me and Jacob started the fire, standing back while the fire started. After that, Jake pulled out some food and drinks, some colas and waters with some meats. After that, we cooked some food, talked, and had a good time. Sometimes we heard something around us, but thought nothing about it until Mike said, I think I see a bear, which reminded me about the gun that I forgot on my back. Took it off my back and loaded it with 2 shells and look around. See the animals running away now. It was a deer. After that, had some laughs and whatnot. It started to get dark, so 2 of my friends went to sleep while me, Jake, and Carl were still up talking about schooling and what we had done in the summer. And then we just heard the loudest twig ever snap. From deeper in the woods, the sound just echoed for a bit, and after that, the forest went silent. We were in other space, I remember, without wings or flight. I remembered what it felt like to be without noise, to be by myself, to be suspended in a place of beauty. And after that, the forest went silent. There was none, I don't reckon. And then Jacob and Mike woke up, came out and asked what it was. I said it was a twig snapping by some animal, but the more twig starts to snap, but the sound of it came closer. So Jacob went into the tent, grabbing onto those high-power flashlights, and came out and scanned the woods for a bit until we heard more twigs snap from 2 directions. So I took the gun and took out a headlamp and started to scan the forest. Gun pointed towards the darkness. Something was coming closer to us, so I did a warning shot into the air. And here, as from multiple directions, something just run away. After that, we calmed down, sat down, and pull out a radio, one of those handheld ones, and start to play some music from it. 2 hours later, here again, twigs snap, but this time it sounded like it was from multiple directions. And we started to scan the woods. Here, as the twig snapping gets louder, and then here, as my friend screams, "What the F?" EURPCMIFER, Preservation Angel. Then here, as my friend screams, "What the F?" ERPCN, is that? As I look towards the area where I think it is and shot, it hits something that sounded like a fox if it would have a very deep vocal cord, screaming like a demon from hell. That's when we would all just run for the grass field, leaving our stuff behind. When we got to the grass field, we still heard whatever it was in the woods. Seeing something past the not so well burning fire, so I put 2 new shells into the gun and fire while screaming at the top of my lungs, "Leave. This is property, or I'm going to call the cops." I see my grandfather at one of the sheds with my friends, holding a phone to his ear, talking to 911 while holding a hunting rifle in another hand. I backed up all the way to the shed, scared for my life. Then my grandpa says everything's going to be fine. I called the cops. After that day, my parents came, picked me up, and went home. Days later, my grandpa caught a glimpse of the things on the trail cameras moving into the cornfield, and the other camera of something peeking out from behind the shed far away. My grandpa believed it's some kind of wolf pack or coyotes that was terrorizing us in the farm, and no more. I don't know, heard from my dad. Grandpa asked some of his hunting buddies over to watch over the property, and after that, nothing really had happened after that. I was spooky weekend at a friend's house. 5 months ago, me and a group of friends decided to go for the weekend at a friend's house on the mountain. We had 2 cars, 3 people in each car. We were traveling for about 2 hours, and we had at least one more before we arrived to our destination. We were too far away from, so we were driving in this old highway around 10 a.m. You could only see the forest in front of you because of the car lights and nothing else. At some point, we see our friend's car stopped in the side of the road. He was 5 men ahead of us. We parked our car too and went to see what was the problem. Apparently, a quite big branch appeared out of nowhere and hit the car from the side of the driver like someone threw it at the car. Needless to say, we were quite spooked, and the whole scenery of the pitch dark forest wasn't making it better. We decided to continue with our road trip because it was getting late and we needed some rest. After we arrived at our friend's house, we made something to eat, took a bath, and we were ready to go to sleep. At that point, it was 12 a.m., and we were dead tired. We decided to go for one last smoke and go to sleep. You could see most of the forest in the village from my friend's house, even in the night, especially the old church. The village had still lights on and whatnot, because many would come occasionally for the weekend to relax or on holidays. And this is where it gets really creepy. Coming from down the road, we see a dog or a wolf coming. We didn't know what it was since it was dark and too far away. After it got closer, we got a better look at it. Black, long furry, and it was missing one ear. It was just standing there and was looking at us. We threw it some food, but it just did nothing. Just sitting and staring at us for about half an hour. And at that point, we forgot how tired we were. And we just looking at the dog staring us, except 2 of our friends that fell asleep instantly. After 30 mind pass, it barked 2 or 3 times and left. Part 2. After all the weird things, we managed to get some sleep. We woke up in the morning, had our coffee, we BBQ'd, and got some sleep again. After all that, we decided to go for a walk in the forest. Not all of us, me, my cousin, and my friend that owned the house. My friend, he oked the place like the palm of his hand. It was afternoon, so the sun was still up. When we left, we were walking on the road outside of the village on the complete opposite direction that we arrived at our friend's house. At some point, there is a little path that goes in the forest. Following this path will get you to a small waterfall. We were walking alongside the small river. We passed the rock that made of rocks. And on the way to the water, all we found, the fur of an animal with some claws laying around. Maybe it was eaten, I don't know. After that, we arrived at our destination. The waterfall wasn't much, but we liked nature and all that stuff. We sat there for 15 minutes before we decided to get back because the sun was almost gone. On our way back, all three of us felt a little bit uneasy. It got quite dark, too. After we made it on the road, things got way creepy. We could hear sound that coming from the forest, something that it was normal, but suddenly everything went silent. Not a single sound. We stopped walking, and we were just looking around. A midnight passed or so, and I turned around my friends to tell them we should head back. And that's when I saw my cousin had turned white. I heard something in the bushes. I tried to tell him that it was imagination, but then I heard something moving where he said he saw something. We froze, and then we saw two eyes. Orange, yellow. When the eyes disappeared, we could hear the forest again after a while. We started walking so fast towards the house, but then the sound stopped again when we heard something following us. Of course, we started running. It was in the hallway. Finally, we arrived at our friend's house, and we tried to explain everything that happened to our friends. They didn't believe us at first, not until that damn dog appeared outside the house again. It sat for 20 minutes either growling or barking. While we were looking at it, I could swear his eyes turned orange for a sec, something that my friend also see. I don't know what that thing was, but it wasn't a dog or a wolf. And the last night we slept there, nothing really happened, but we saw some scratches on my friend's car, the one that got hit by the branch. If you had any similar experience and have any idea what that was, or it was just our imagination, please tell us. I myself, for one, would like to visit that place again. Thank you for reading. I know it was quite long.